Excellencies, distinguished participants, it is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to participate in this public forum in honor of Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, former Secretary General of ASEAN and a noble statesman of our region. At the outset, I wish to join my colleagues in expressing our appreciations to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Thailand, Ambassador Housni, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of the Kingdom of Morocco, and then the Institute of Security and International Study, I speak in details, of Thailand for inviting me to join this forum. We find merits in the theme of our gathering today, Surin Pitsuwan and ASEAN, a tribute, which is most timely and particularly relevant as we cherish our leaders and thinkers who have played an instrumental role in the formation of ASEAN. Distinguished participants, I first met Dr. Surin Pitsuwan when he was the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Kingdom of Thailand back in late 1990s. He was the successful chair of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and the ASEAN Regional Forum back in 1999 and 2000. I was also fortunate to work closely with him during his tenure as the Secretary General of ASEAN. I was a member of the CPR, the Committee of Permanent Representatives, based in Jakarta. He was a great statesman with wisdom, wide knowledge, and wholehearted passion for ASEAN. Dr. Surin Pitsuwan certainly passed away on 30th November last year. When he passed away, his country, Thailand, lost a great statesman. Our region also lost a great charismatic diplomat, most articulate speaker, and a noble statesman. We will always remember him as a highly respected diplomat, accomplished statesman, and one of the most eloquent speakers from our region. He shall also be remembered for his tireless efforts in advancing peace and stability and prosperity in our region. Distinguished participants, Dr. Surin served as the Secretary General of ASEAN for 5 years, from 2008 till 2012. It was the period of most challenging time for our region, where he tactfully maneuvered the regional organization. With the adoption of the ASEAN Charter in December 2009, he took the most challenging role of the Secretary General and led the ASEAN Secretariat to effectively address the ever-changing new geopolitical situation and evolving state of affairs in our region. Throughout his tenure as the Secretary General of ASEAN, he has actively engaged with all stakeholders and was instrumental in leading and preparing the ASEAN Secretariat to promote its profile and support ASEAN member states in order to effectively address the prevailing challenges. He traveled a lot, and then he was promoting the image of the ASEAN. In time of such challenges facing our region, he took the bold initiative to develop strategies and initiatives to remain ASEAN relevant in the geopolitical arena and to maintain the ASEAN centrality in the evolving regional architecture. He personally authored the ASEAN Challenge, some reflections and recommendations on strengthening the ASEAN Secretariat, which was pivotal in strengthening the ASEAN Secretariat in coping with the emerging challenges in our region. We had a heated debates, long and tedious meetings in order to strengthen the ASEAN Secretariat. Under his wide guidance, we review the staff regulations and budget regulations in order to make the ASEAN Secretariat the most successful regional organization today. Distinguished participant, as a statesman, he encouraged stakeholder engagement across all ASEAN communities, including business, academic, women, youth, and civil society organizations. He also actively participated in and articulately delivered his views and thoughts at the seminars and conferences and show a good example of engagement with all stakeholders in realizing people-oriented and people-centered ASEAN community. We believe that ASEAN Secretariat will continue to play active roles in supporting and cooperating with member states to help facilitate and drive the establishment of the ASEAN community. The ASEAN Secretariat will continue to strive to work more effectively with member states and dialogue partners in strengthening our relationship and strategic partnership. Those achievements are attributed by Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, who has paved the way to strengthen the ASEAN Secretariat. Distinguished participants, on a personal note, I wish to pay our tribute to Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, who play an important role in the ASEAN engagement with Myanmar since she joined the regional organization back in 1997. As a foreign minister of Thailand and the chair of the ASEAN in late 1990s, he introduced constructive engagement and later flexible engagement initiative, which contributed to the ASEAN positive and interactive approaches towards Myanmar. Dr. Surin also deeply involved in the humanitarian assistance in the aftermath of Cyclone Nargis, which hit Myanmar in May 2008. He initiated the tripartite core group, which was formed at the special meeting of foreign minister held in Singapore on 19 May 2008, and the ASEAN United Nations International Flagging Conference held in Yangon on 25 May 2008. The TCG served as an ASEAN-led mechanism to facilitate trust, confidence, and cooperation between Myanmar and the international community in the humanitarian relief and recovery works in the cyclone-affected areas. We are grateful to Dr. Surin, who deeply involved in the humanitarian support and served as the chairman of the ASEAN Humanitarian Task Force. With his constant support and cooperation, TCG continues to work in the spirit of mutual understanding, trust, and facilitate the continuing work of post-Nargis relief, recovery, and reconstruction in the affected Irrawaddy area. Since the Cyclone Nargis, the ASEAN improved its disaster management and response mechanism. We formed the AHA Center based on our experience in Cyclone Nargis in Jakarta to improve our capacity to respond to natural disaster and immediate need of the people. Distinguished participants, we will always remember Dr. Surin as an architect of ASEAN and a statesman for his tireless efforts in advancing peace and stability and prosperity in our region, and his passion for articulating ASEAN vision to benefit all our citizens. He will also be remembered as part of the evolving history of ASEAN and the establishment of the people-oriented and people-centered ASEAN community. I thank you for your kind attention.
And Excellencies, the family of Surin Pitsuwan, friends, our dear host, the Ambassador of Morocco. Last year, as we concluded 365 days of celebration to mark the 50th anniversary of ASEAN in the Philippines, I was meant to write letters to thank the active participation of ASEAN thought leaders like Dr. Surin Pitsuwan for their contribution to 5 decades of ASEAN, especially to those who held dialogues consistently with the general public in the ASEAN community, in its search for an ASEAN community. May I share with you the draft letter which I would have written to Dr. Surin Pitsuwan. Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, address upthere.com. Dear Surin Pitsuwan, today, the 24th of July, 2018, your friends, colleagues, and admirers gathered here in Chulalongkorn University to celebrate your life, especially those years you spent with each one of us. I'm particularly honored to have been invited to share with a grieving audience what you meant to us and what you have done in the many roles you played in your country as a political leader, to our region as the 12th Secretary General of ASEAN, and for your deep humanity, for leading ASEAN engagements to assist people, victims of Typhoon Nargis, which we really watch you from a very close point, because the Philippines itself is a frequent victim of natural disasters, and we felt one with you. All this you did with such passion and dignity. I remember most vividly when I first met you at the remember, this is my letter to him, so I have to address him there. I remember most vividly the time I met you at the airport in Canberra, where I was the ambassador, together with a good friend of yours, Tim Fisher, and we were welcoming you to the city. I said, I don't know him, do you? And Tim Fisher said, look at that tall man with a backpack. That's him. I said, with a backpack? What a modest man. And later, that day at the inauguration of the Thai embassy there, which was renovated by the ambassador Laksana, who was with me as DG of ASEAN for long 5 years in the 90s, I learned that there was this rumor that ASEAN was making moves to nominate Surin as the next Secretary General of the United Nations. We all agreed, especially his drumbeater, Tim Fisher, that he would make a terrific Secretary General of the United Nations. However, it was not meant to be. Years later, he became Secretary General of ASEAN. Certainly, UN's loss was ASEAN's gain. Nonetheless, you remained as active observer and participant in the activities of the United Nations. When I chaired the United Nations Security Council in 2004, during the term of the Philippines as a non-permanent member of the Council, you were so kind. I think you were one of the first to call me and congratulate me, and especially to mention and make reference to my chosen agenda, which was the role of civil society in post-conflict peace building. At first, this was not acceptable. It sort of was being shifted to the Economic and Social Council. But I insisted, and Surin used to say, if a woman insists, she'll get it. And I did get it. I got my agenda. At that same instance, you congratulated me as the first woman career diplomat to become foreign minister in ASEAN. And at the same breath, you hoped that more women should be given the opportunity to serve in more leadership roles in our region. At that 50th anniversary last year, you came to me and said, boy, am I glad it's 50% improvement. We have Retno from Indonesia as foreign minister. You will be pleased to note that I kept working on some of the issues that were very close to you, that I initiated a study, which I thought you would be happy to have a copy of, and we entitled it, Can ASEAN Move Forward If Women Are Left Behind? I told the title to you and he said, yes, that's a good one. We identified strategies where women could unlock, where ASEAN could unlock possibilities to make ASEAN grow in the way that we've always wanted it to be inclusive and to be a major contributor in building that community. Yesterday, you'll be happy to know, I gave a copy of that study to Foreign Minister Don Pramudwinai, and I told him, you better make sure that this gets into your agenda, otherwise Surin will haunt you. At one lecture in Manila last year, you referred to the midlife crisis of ASEAN, and you articulated the need to advance ASEAN's structural capacity, streamline decision-making processes, reconfigure ASEAN's working procedures, as well as adopt a mindset of proactive engagement by reassessing what you aptly describe as the slow and very deliberative and passive ASEAN way. This caught the attention of our press. They went wild, and they called you the cheerleader of ASEAN. You made that message very clear, and I hope that that message would be carried on till the next 50 years of ASEAN. Indeed, you, like one of the founding fathers of ASEAN, Thanat Khoman, whom I had the privilege to meet in the early days of ASEAN. Yes, by the way, I paid my respects to him at the Thanat Khoman room at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I suggested to Don, I think you should play up the role of the real father of ASEAN, Thanat Khoman. And he pondered and he said, yeah, we were thinking of that, but you know, Thais are so self-effacing, so modest. Perhaps the Filipinos can egg on. 5 decades ago, he, Mr. Khoman, like Surin, expressed great hopes for ASEAN and its role as a credible platform for consultation and exchanges among major players that have a direct interest in the stability and peace of the region. Before I left Manila the other day to come here, I called former Secretary General of ASEAN, Rodolfo Severino, and I told him I was coming to speak about his good friend, Surin. He excitedly said in his rather weak voice, I'm glad you're going. Surin has been very good for the organization, as his activist inclinations fits with the expanded mandate given to the Secretary General under the ASEAN Charter. Moreover, he said, as a former foreign minister, Surin brought a stature that those who preceded him did not. Surin, today we celebrate your, and this is from the Philippine press, his love affair for ASEAN. And I think every speaker confirmed this all this morning. You confined and you gave at that meeting in Manila a wonderful essay entitled ASEAN After 50 Years, A Personal Reflection, which we launched to the public soon after the end of the session. Surin, was that your last will and testament to us? As you were leaving the hall last year and at the end of all the speeches of the leaders, a journalist comes running to me and says, where is Surin Pitsuwan? Who is he among the leaders? I said, he's the tall man with a backpack. Surin, you towered above us all. Thank you.
You know, we are coming to the end of this wonderful tribute. I think almost everything that can be said about our great friend Surin has already been expressed. I don't know what else to add. But I came to this event intending to demonstrate to you 3 good things about Surin. So maybe I will just say it, yeah, and let you decide whether it's repetitious or not. The first thing is that I always regard Surin as a humanitarian and peacekeeper. Wherever he goes, whatever he would do, he would like to demonstrate that he cares for his fellow human beings as well as trying to make peace and maintain peace. So from all that you have heard in the past 2 hours or so, I am very sure no one can dispute that statement I just put out. Yeah. But one time when I spoke to him, this was after 2 or 3 years since he became the Secretary General. I say, what keep you going? And he say, what else to do? Yeah, this is our fate. We are given a job as Secretary General of ASEAN. As a human being, we do what we can. And you know, one of the things that Surin brought to Southeast Asia, to ASEAN, is actually something that people don't talk about very much, which is that he was a Muslim. He came across to the Westerners as a completely different Muslims from their stereotypes and the kind of biases they would harbor. So I always thought that Surin demonstrated the wonderful character of Islam in Southeast Asia, inclusive, harmonious in coexisting, and always looking out for the fellow human being. I'm very sure many of my Western friends have been impressed by this aspect of a Muslim from Southeast Asia. And he once also said to me, Islam is about peace. So if you say I'm a peacemaker, I'm a peacekeeper, I take it with great humility. So the second thing I want to say about Surin is that actually his brilliance came about because he was always thinking on his feet. Some of you mentioned just now about his ability to take the opportunities as they came up. All the time, Surin was thinking, and he was very imaginative. He tried to maximize whatever situation he had been put into, and he innovated. You heard about the way he reshaped the humanitarian disaster relief in Myanmar and elsewhere in the region. And more importantly, many of us think on our feet, but sometimes we got no substance. Surin came across with tremendous intellect, substance, and the ability to illustrate the goodness and the art of the possibility. The third thing I want to say about Surin is that at the end of the day, everything said and done, yeah, he was a good Thai man. Wherever the chance came up, I would tease him and he would read me as a Singaporean. I would tease him as a Thai, you know. But he never once let the situation in Thailand, social, economic, political, wear him down. And he was always positive and always looking for the opportunity to do more for Thailand. So I think people in Thailand, as you heard so much about Surin on the world stage, in the international arena, must not forget that he was a real patriot of Thailand. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And whenever we hear the name Surin Pitsuwan, or when we talk about him, we will always think of his family and his countrymen. Thank you.
First of all, let me thank Dr. Thitinan and Ambassador Housni for the invitation for me to speak at this important event. I am the last person to speak from the ASEAN perspective, but I find the niche where I'm speaking to you. I think the only person that doesn't have any personal relationship with Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, but it doesn't mean that he is not the source of inspiration and admiration for me personally and for our colleagues back at the DAV and the Moha Vietnam, and I explain why. Dr. Surin Pitsuwan has served, we remember, at the time Moha from 1992 and 2001 as the Deputy Foreign Minister and then Foreign Minister, and we instantly understood that he is the ASEAN man, and under his leadership at MOFA, Thailand's engagement in ASEAN and ASEAN's engagement with the rest of the world were elevated to a higher level. But from a Vietnamese perspective, I would like to highlight the formative years for Vietnam and for the DAV that I'm representing here. The years between 1992 and 1995. These years are of special importance in at least two senses. First one is that it was a time when Vietnam was making the decision to join ASEAN. We tried to get out of the state of being isolated and embargoed from the rest of the region and from the rest of the world. And at the time, the interactions between Vietnamese decision makers and the counterparts in ASEAN were of great importance. And we all know now that the interaction between Vietnam's leaders and Thai leaders in the early 90s are of great importance. And this morning, Dr. Suriya has shared with us the intention, the dream of Dr. Surin Pitsuwan to have Vietnam as a member of ASEAN. And I share with you that my study on Vietnam's decision to join ASEAN has suggested that Thailand indeed had played a very important role in the decisions of Vietnam to join ASEAN. We know that the decision of ASEAN to admit Vietnam as a new member is a consensus one, but we just remember that the decision was made in July 1994 in Bangkok. That was under the influence of Thailand as the host. Secondly, a little bit more personally, that the IIR, the predecessor of the DAV now, during these years of 1992 and 1995, started to engage in the ASEAN ISIS network. The researchers from the IIR, including myself, were first exposed to the think tank community's activities when Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, together with Dr. Suchit, Pak Yusuf Wanandi from Indonesia, and other towering figures from Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore, they attended the conferences and seminars with their speeches and comments, and we were most impressed by the eloquent speeches by Dr. Pitsuwan. And I myself were inspired by him. I have a close observation of what he did, and I have made three decisions for myself. One, to seek fellowship to join graduate studies in advanced IR programs in famous universities. I failed to get to Harvard, but luckily I got to Columbia. Two, I engaged in university teaching and think tank activities to promote ASEAN. And three, I'm doing it right now. So in the formative years of Vietnam and the formative years of myself of the DAV, we have been influenced by such a great person like Dr. Pitsuwan. We try to make ASEAN the priority for Vietnam's foreign policy. And in 2011, when the Party Congress adopted a foreign policy, we tried to insert a line, and we were successful. And that line read, Vietnam tries to become a proactive member of ASEAN. And now ASEAN is a strategic choice for Vietnam, and this is the wide belief in Vietnam. So this commemorative event is a good reason for us to reflect on ASEAN, its achievement and challenges, and the way forward. We are all ASEAN believers, defenders, and champions, as Dr. Surin Pitsuwan, and more importantly, we are all inspired by him. We know that the ASEAN is now 51 years old, and we know that ASEAN has achieved many great achievements, and we know that there is no time for complacency. And on that ending note, I'd like to quote the speech made by Mr. Pitsuwan in the Philippines August 4th last year. He said, ASEAN has survived many challenges to its resilience and existence over the past 50 years, but the next few decades will be filled with formidable challenges from the changing global landscape. The only prescription for survival is more cohesiveness within its community and greater innovation in managing this impressive past accomplishment. And I think this line would be the guiding line for us, at least in the next 50 years. And with that, Dr. Surin Pitsuwan is still with us in our ASEAN course. Thank you very much for your attention.
It's a big honor, as beloved friends of Surin Pitsuwan family. It's not a curse to be the last speaker of this event. Actually, it's a blessing, because I speak on behalf as a friend and a journalist, and Surin as a new maker, and most important, as an informed source who happened to be in a meeting, who was not authorized to say anything about ASEAN, because he happened to be ASEAN Secretary General. The reason why I said that I knew him as a journalist, because we started in 1984. Secondly, he was the one who introduced the word fulcrum. When I wrote about ASEAN, I would say that ASEAN is a platform. He said, Mr. Kavi, don't use platform, use the word fulcrum. And then I will continue to write. He also, as a journalist, actually he's competing with me writing on regionalism. And he said that, Kavi, don't use these words, said, ASEAN is important, or that. Use the word catalyst. And then the last words he also introduced, Could we use the word ASEAN as a driving force? You see, he always used the word driving force and introduced, he said, ASEAN, do you have a valid driving license or not when you try to drive ASEAN toward the future? That's what he taught me. Secondly, this is very important, I will end soon. I follow him as a foreign minister, not only of Thailand, but foreign minister of ASEAN de facto. I was the one who said that he was a de facto because he was very conscientious as a Secretary General of ASEAN that he must spoke on behalf of ASEAN and protect ASEAN interests. Although ASEAN mandate does not have a position of ASEAN foreign minister. So he has done a good job. And I think when I follow him, he was so excited. Whether he as a foreign minister of Thailand, we talked when he was at Wellington, when he said that Indonesian Habibie said that he did not want Australia to be part of the peacekeeping, and that he asked ASEAN to help. And quickly, Chuan asked Surin, jump on the plane and come to Jakarta. Secondly, you have cyclone. Now, lastly, I know Surin as a traveling companion. I have to say this because judging from my telephone bill between 2008 and 2012, it was clear that I spoke to him more than I spoke to my wife. And with that, and a lot of people didn't know, Surin, whenever he went to the airplane, he always sit on A2. Not because he wants to rush out, not because he was in the first class, but keep this information to you. He sat on A2 because he wanted to take the newspaper, the first one, to walk in and take all the newspaper and magazines. And you know why? He kept all the magazines so that he can give his village heads in Nakhon Si Thammarat. And he has a very good habit in asking for free postcard or the aeroplane. He picked up this habit from Kun Chuan. He will take at least 10 and write quickly. Here I am writing from the plane, 30,000 meters ahead of the sea level. Say hi to you. You know, that's keep the Huo Kanan, you know, or in the village to support it for 7 times. That is why. With that, I'd like to end. Thank you so much. And I would like to wake up Dr. Surin, you know. I need another exclusive. I miss him so much. Thank you.
Now the last word will go to Dr. Surin's son. I just want to wrap up this way. I mean, today, obviously, evidently, this is a man who is larger than life. We have come up with a kind of an exceptional, extraordinary, exemplary mosaic of a man. And I think the way that he has been, the reason he can be this way is because of his journey from a shoeless Thai Muslim boy to a global statesman. That's why he listens well. That's why he's humanitarian. That's why he can relate to people. He has such a gift for language to communicate. And he has the kind of a boundless optimism, unrivaled dynamism. He's always doing something, going somewhere. So the last part, after saying how erudite, eloquent he was, and all that we've heard, I want to invite. He has 3 sons, as I mentioned. They're all accomplished, and it speaks to him and his wife, Alisa, his family. So Fuadi is Oxford PhD incoming, and here we have a lawyer, corporate lawyer, who looks like his father, Husni, and the youngest one, Fikri, also doing a PhD at Cornell. So Husni, we will give you the floor for the last word, and then we'll end up with the gift-giving ceremony. Please, Husni Pitsuwan.
Thank you, Ajahn Suchit, Ajahn Thijinan, and ISIS Thailand for organizing this wonderful event as a tribute to my father. Thank you all the distinguished speakers for your kind reflection this morning. On behalf of my mother, brothers, and the rest of our family, I thank you all for attending the event today. To others, Surin Pitsuwan is perhaps a colleague, a friend, or a mentor. But to me, I see him as a father who really loved and cared for his 3 sons, his wife, and his family. The sudden loss of my father has made me stronger as a person. I am now propelled to take responsibility for my family's matters and be with my mother as my 2 brothers are doing PhD abroad. Despite all the great speeches today detailing my father's contribution to the region, I came to realize that his greatest legacy are not just his social, political, and humanitarian work, but they also include the fact that he had raised his 3 sons together with our mother to understand our privilege and sought to pay that forward to those who are less fortunate than us. He had instilled within us and other children ideals and values that are similar to his own. We are committed to spend the rest of our life proving that our father has raised us right. To continue the good work of our father, my brother and I, and Dr. Jemilah, Together with our family and close friends, are starting a foundation under our father's name that will focus on 3 causes he cares most about: education, diplomacy, and human security. We are in the process of raising the fund for it and hope to model it as a permanent endowment so that its impact can grow over time. We will need your support throughout the next many years in order to realize the impact of the foundation. Let me end my speech with an excerpt from an email my father wrote to me 5 years ago when I was doing my master's degree. Quote, "Nini, very glad to hear that things are opening up for you. It will be a yo-yo. Just be prepared for it psychologically. One day you feel good, one week you feel great, the next day, the next week you feel down and helpless. That is the rhythm of life." Unquote. It has not been easy for my family since we lost our father, but we are well prepared by the great man himself to make the most of this bumpy ride. As my father liked to say to me, "Husni, you need to take the bull by the horns." Thank you very much.